to the Laughing Monkey Music Show too. I'm Craig Locicero from Forbidden. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing really well. Just in the middle of, another day of interviews in between playing actually getting some music in.
You are an immediate blitz, so it's hard to. I want to hopefully we can hit something a little fresh for the listeners to keep people interested. I know gets redundant for you probably too at some point to be talking about it over and over.
Yes and no. I mean, of course it is, but on the other hand, that's what I'm here for. And my son was asking me that the other day. He's like, "So what's going on, man? Do you just got like tired of telling this thing?" I'm like, "Listen, dude, the fact that anyone even cares after all these
Right.
years, you better put that to the side because it's an honor to have anyone give a shit. So I'm okay with it."
Well, to me it was exciting because I wanted to speak to you before because to me my experiences when I was a younger me had interned for combat in effect in the time when Twisted came out.
Oh shit.
So I had the promo stuff. It was like you guys and like in Scatterbrain and a couple other bands. I had my walls. It was like Forbidden and Scatterbrain. I had the big posters. But to me, this was like like a huge Forbidden fan. So the fact that you know you're active again is way cool for me. So
I've got questions.
yeah, I
I've
got
got
answers.
questions. Uh, so are you from Queens or did you just,
No, it's actually in
go
Atlanta.
there on the way?
No, it was in Atlanta. The
Okay,
combat in
you're
effect located out of there. Yeah.
okay. 'Cause I was gonna say, because if you were in Queens, because I had went to the offices, it was an unbelievable turnaround, and you couldn't do it these days, what we did then.
No.
And we finished recording the album by like halfway through February, and it was out in April. We're like
Yeah.
they were just the machine moved so fast back then, and luckily we had the heat from Forbidden Evil to kind of still carry
It
us,
just
and then Twisted took off. I mean, it just took off.
it did. I met somebody actually. It was doing the show that actually worked out of the that office that you're talking about over just overlapping my talk and doing the show. But the thing with the label back then is it was a real grassroots. I was actually an intern for college at the label, so a lot of my perks were like as a student, so it was like free food, all the music I could get, shows, concerts. So I was getting credit too. So to me, just going out and doing music stuff with my artists that I love was awesome. You know,
Yeah,
ironically
I
now
bet.
I do the show now because I like the artists and I still put my time in to just do it for because I want to, not for a job. Um, but those days were pretty awesome because you had a lot of press. You could use like it was like the posters and everything. Nowadays it's just strictly media. So it's got to be weird now coming out because I mean, you can sit at home and you can plan right to the 5 minutes before the interview to put it out there,
Yeah,
as opposed to having to be at somewhere and do like interview like one get hitting on a couch all day, and people walking in and hitting you all day or something. Now you're kind of at home at least for breaks.
well, now I am. I mean, who knows what it's going to be like, you know when we put an album out, probably. And I don't see an album being even if we started writing it now, which is something we can get into, but I just don't. The end of 24, beginning of 25 is more of likely time frame, because there's a lot to do. You got to promote it properly now, at the very least. But I mean, for now, because technically there is no album to support, so there's no reason for Nuclear Blast to fly me around. You know, this is enough. This
Yeah.
is. I'm actually blown away by the amount of requests we have for interviews. I did not expect this many requests for interviews. It's been wild. It has been wild.
Well, I think Forbidden had this thing where it became very much like a. You always say didn't get big enough or underrated. Everyone's always underrated and stuff. And in the eyes of somebody who's your favorite artist, always the same way, you know. But Forbidden was one of the bands that became like a cult status. And I think the legend kind of grew over the years. Like I remember being there during that time. Never got to see you guys live, but I was a fan of you guys. Used to never got to see you. So at this point, you have the newer generations coming in that had no idea you guys were already broken up when they were getting into music. So now at this point, you got so many new fans.
Yeah, and that's something you have to acknowledge and understand, because I mean, I've said it many times. I know Forbidden was a cult band. We were never, it never really took off yet. The industry for a lot of bands that were on the way up, it just the rug got pulled out in 91, 92. just because the industry completely changed because of music tastes had changed overnight with the advent of, what people now call grunge, which I just called good music that was different than
Right.
our music. I didn't hate it. I
I
was
didn't
like,
either.
there's some great stuff. I loved the earliest Soundgarden records, and when Alice in Chains dropped Facelift, I thought that was great. Nirvana was a
Soundgarden
bit
played at
much.
Combat Records all the time. So you got you guys, Scatterbrain, Sonic Youth, Cockatoo Twins,
Right.
Soundgarden's Big
Well,
Dumb Love. It was all played there. Everything
anything
was
anything
loved.
cool, anything cool was cool, and
Yeah.
that's how I looked at it. But the industry is, back then when the records were being sold, physical copies were being moved. Everyone was just freaking out to get on top of that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I had Louder Than Love when
That
before
great
it came
album.
out from I got it from the Foundation's forum in a bag. So I
I
had
remember
that,
that.
and then I went back into Ultra Mega OK, and then I was in from that point on. So, but my story goes, and everyone's story that was in thrash metal, uh, while thrash kind of killed the hair bands, grunge kind of killed, and I hate the word grunge. The Seattle scene kind
Hmm.
of killed thrash metal. It's just the way thing. And nowadays, there's room for all of it, right? It's weird because
Absolutely.
what happened over time is that people aren't stupid and they gravitate towards things that are real. And most music you hear today is quantized, digitally corrected, and completely put through some sort of filter of perfection because that's the industry standard. But what people like is the scratches and the pushes and the pulls
Right.
and the things that make music magical. And that little noise you heard and that little part right there was like an Easter egg. I mean, that's why Sabbath will always and Zeppelin will always stand, or the Beatles, because that stuff
Hmm.
had real uh, imperfections that made it beautiful, that made it perfect. So Forbidden never had the luxury in the old days of doing anything besides what we were. And we were, a high wire act on incredible amounts of testosterone and you know, um, copious amounts of other things, probably. So we were out of hand. I mean, I'm sitting here playing the stuff off Forbidden Evil, going, Jesus Christ! Like, could we groove it just a little bit? Forbidden Evil was not a groove album. It was
No.
So it's people love that shit, so they go backwards. And even when we did Omega Wave, many years later, I refused to let the quantizing and the perfection be even a part of the process. There was so little moving of anything. I was like, let's record it, let's leave it. I want to. So that approach. So when you listen to that album, maybe it doesn't sound as you know the industry standard that the other albums did, but I'm proud of it because now people are digging it up and they're like, it's more old school. It feels like it. Yeah, because we
You know
left
what it sounds
left it
like to me?
real.
It's old school to me. If you imagine a sound to be like a pair of pants, right? Old school sound to me can be anything that feels like you're wearing a pair of sweatpants. Newer music now, it's like a pair of skinny jeans. Like you can say it might
Right.
look good visually, but it just feels like you can't move in it. But like in sweatpants, you feel like it's got a groove. It feels like you're very comfortable in it. It feels right. It sounds right. It's about what feels good to you, and that music feels
Yeah,
good without having to make everything look so perfect in the visual. And it's just about it breathes. The music breathes.
yeah, you gotta be in a comfortable digs if you want to fart on the couch.
That's right. These are some quotes, people. I want some T-shirts made from these quotes we're making here. We each want 20% of the profit. You guys are gonna have the rest. But that being said, I mean, as a fan, all right. So when I saw, Russ isn't gonna be singing. I mean, obviously, grew up on him. I love him. Obviously, he's your bud. You love him, and the
Yeah.
fact it's on good terms and he's doing what he wants to do and it's healthy. As a fan and as a human being, as a father, I get it, man. I want him to live a long, healthy life. He can't perform and do his best. Or you know what I'm saying? Be healthy. I want him healthy as a fan.
Yeah, well, yeah, then you're looking at it the right way. And we've had very, very little negative blowback over that. The first day we made the announcement, you had, your fair share of no Russ, no Forbidden. But then as people that know Skinner came into the fray and I watched that kind of stuff just happen. I was like, okay. And they're not attacking, they just explain it how it is. You don't even know. You know, you don't even
Right.
know how good this guy is and how he fit in when he did the Interthrational show. Um, he just, you know, he owned Chalice of Blood, but wasn't karaoke. He wasn't. What I loved about it immediately is he wasn't trying to sound like Russ. He sounded like Norman singing Forbidden
Right.
convincingly,
But
which is the hardest thing. It's hard to
oh,
do, man. I mean, those songs are hard. Vocally, guitar, drums, everything. They're tough.
but like as a fan, like I'm gonna say two things, and how I looked at it. As a fan of music, darn well if someone you get the conversation, Dave Lee Roth or Sammy Hagar. I like early Dave, but Sammy's a better singer, and I like both sets of songs. Some people are one or the other. I like them both on different times.
It
So he
goes
did
on
this
and on.
problem, right? But the point is, you
Ozzy
never know.
Dio, Deano Dickinson. You
Thank
know,
you.
I mean, but for the longest time, I just refused to do this. I mean, it was
Well,
a
your
bunch of
quote in Revolver, though, that's the other slippery slope for you. You put out there, you said no Russ, like you and someone else, like
yeah,
you guys three aren't together, the band will not be,
and
which
I
puts
meant
you
it,
in,
and I
and it
meant
puts
it.
you in a corner.
And
I'm
but
not
yeah,
beating you
no,
up. I'm saying once you
I
said
don't
out loud
regret
the ethos, you know what I mean?
because I'm not a guy who like I don't have to backtrack on that because I fucking meant it. And it was a series of events that made me even consider it. And also, you know, Matt and Steve really wanted it and were very patient for me to open my ears and eyes to the reality that it's right here in front of you.
Hmm?
There it is, Craig. You hear him, you see him, but you know you're being loyal to the idea that protecting this thing that Russ is the only guy. But
Right.
Russ said it years ago. He told us years ago. He's like, "You do whatever you want because I can't do it," you know. And when I
Which
saw
makes a
Russ,
huge
I had
difference as
to,
a
you know,
fan. His
yeah,
blessings.
you know, and I mean, about 3 years ago when I got a random text from him, and I hardly ever heard from him. It was a year to the day after I got a text from him where he texted me and was just raving about Kayla Dixon and Dress the Dead. He's like, dude, your singer is incredible because he knows talent. He's like,
Right.
she is amazing. I'm so happy for you. And I was like, wow, dude, that's really nice of you. Then a year later, I'm not doing so well. I'm not in good shape. And I said, where's your address? I'll come see you in the morning. He punched me the dress. I went in there first thing in the morning and he was next to death. He was not okay. His alcohol abuse had finally come to the point where he was going to die or he was going to have to quit drinking and go through all that. So that day, he told me, and it was really, I mean, I can't imagine how hard it was for him to say this out loud, but he apologized for not taking care of himself, his body, his voice, not giving 100% on tour. And he felt like he let me down. I said, dude, I love you. The way you can make up for that is just get yourself better and live, you know? And that was kind of the beginning of the journey that he embarked upon when we sent him down to the first phone call I made was to Mark Hernandez, who's another recovering alcoholic, who was my drummer on Omega Wave. And I was playing with him in Dress the
Yeah.
Dead. And I said, Mark, I just saw Russ, dude, and he needs help. So he knew the people to call to make the whole thing happen to get him into a rehab. And they took him in and they didn't charge the man for $1,000 a day rehab. They didn't charge a man anything besides for his medicine for like 45 days. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is insane.
And because they loved him. They knew he was a sweet man with a big heart. And, you know, and they became fans of him. And so since then, you know, he can't challenge that. He can't, you know, with a venue is full of alcohol every night. It's just not really, you know, he doesn't have that kind of willpower, man. And to know your limits is part of the deal, you know.
Yeah.
Plus, he's like 60 years old now, and he hasn't sang in years, and you know, so I just think it's just you don't have to respect him. You can people can you know hold their ideals as loud, you know, as close as they want to what you think things should be. But as the guy who's the only guy who's been in the band since it's in you know since we formed in 1985, trust me when I tell you I know what the fuck I'm talking about. You know, and Russ, it's it was never
I'm
going to happen, and I was never going to let it happen until a number of things made themselves clear to me. So
right. Well,
here we
no,
are.
and that I agree with you. That's it, like I'm the kind of person that believes a band should go forward. And I love the fact, like, say it wasn't you, it was reversed, and it was Russ. It would still be like if you still have the two core members and they're on the same page, it's really nice and healthy. But if it's like splinter bands, the bands are two different bands and they're fighting over it, and it just gets crazy, or they're saying, "I'm not going to be in this band. We're not going to reform," and they go on tour again. So there's so much of that going on right now. I'm just saying it puts you in a spot where a lot of the fans, the ones that probably gave you a lot of crap in the beginning, with no Rust, it's just fuel for them.
Yeah,
That's it's you're
there's
honoring the
any
memory.
yeah,
It's
that's what we're
music.
doing. I mean, there's any number of ways this could go. I mean, you know, he might wake up one day and be like resentful, but he said okay already. It's funny because I was texting to him and he wouldn't pick up the phone. Like, what's going on? And I had to call his sister, and his sister was like, "Oh, dude, he's fine. He's doing great. He's just afraid you're going to ask him to join the band again." I'm like, "No, that's not what I'm doing. I want his blessing." So you got his blessing. So he's not worried. It's good. It's good. So Russ just doesn't want to relive this part of his life. He's not ready yet. Maybe one day he will be. Maybe one day we'll go to his town where he lives now, and we'll
Jam.
grab him and yeah, maybe. I mean, but he might not want to go anywhere. He might want to have nothing to do with it. Uh, I respect whatever his decision is. He's sober, and it's the hardest job in the world to stay sober when you have that kind of alcohol problem. So that's that.
I respect it totally. I think it's kind of actually great that it's because you can honor it and do something new. And I'm looking forward to new music. I'd love to hear some like you guys do something like release like sometimes when you have a new singer comes in, like do some kind of like live album or a live EP, so people have something that can hold them over until you put a new album out. You know what I mean?
Well, well,
Well,
uh, we are going to release stuff with Russ. We did 3 cover songs in 2011 with that lineup, and they never came out. And we did Iron Maiden's "Remember Tomorrow," Black Sabbath "Children of the Sea," and Operation Ivy's "Knowledge." We did those
mhm.
3 songs, and we recorded a couple songs that we used from Prog Power 2011 as well with Gene Hoglan on drums.
Nice.
And all 5 of those are going to come out. We're trying to aim it so it happens right before we get to Europe. So it's a good way to bookend Russ's, long span of the band and show people like because he was every time he went in the studio, he was incredible.
He was a
That he always
monster.
pulled it together. It was live that was hard for him. Yeah, he was the best. He was the best, and because of his meek, kind way about him and the way he didn't take charge and push people around, he got overlooked. He was just a super nice guy, and he wasn't the kind of guy who'd grab you by the throat and never let go. I mean, he was at first. Actually, in Forbidden at first, he was pretty ferocious, and then over time, he just like different things happen. Maybe his confidence got a little shaken here and there. I mean, this is human nature, man, and he just wasn't like towards the end. So, but he fucking killed it on those songs. So I can't wait for
Yeah.
everyone to hear that because I've been sitting on them now for 12 years wanting them to come out,
Wow.
and we
Well,
finally have a reason.
excellent. I'd like to see that. But actually, I'd heard you mention that in an interview. But what I'm saying is, I would like to hear, like, when you're on tour, this tour, like over in Europe, record some of the stuff with the new guy live as a sample for the fans to hear. This is what we're sounding like. It's sounding good. Get excited for the album. You know, here's the new guy
Well,
singing what we're doing. It's kind of not like not
yeah,
like a download or like a video or some kind of video something because not all of us are able to hearing new music with you with this new singer until like 24 or for touring you know 20 you know what I'm saying it's a long
well,
way
I
for a
mean,
lot of us.
we're going to be playing in 3 months, and those videos are unhideable, right? I mean, once you play at the Alcatraz Festival in front of 25,000 people and everyone's got their phone out, there's your first taste. And
Right, I meant you having control
I
of it
got no,
first. The first release would be you having control of the quality, the first one at least.
there's no time. There's no
Okay.
time. I got let me just paint a picture of what we're how this is going to actually be able to work. And the first thing that has to happen is 3 months of working with the new guys, dusting it off, getting back up to that game speed, because forbidden stuff is probably the hardest regular what you consider Bay Area thrash shit to play. I mean, it's just fucking difficult, dude. And all around guitar, everything, it's just hard.
Yeah, yeah,
So we
it's
we
intense.
really got to concentrate on ourselves. And then secondly, when we come back from all that, I want to start writing a record. And I'm gonna already, I'm already coming up with concepts. I've got a few ideas. I want to write the concepts and then write the riffs and write the songs. I want to do it a little backwards from what I used to do because I think that'll lend itself to an even more cohesive and better story told record. So, and it's not going to be a concept record. That's all I'm saying. I just want concepts,
I get what you're
different things
saying.
to write about.
Right.
So then, next thing, we there's going to be a show at the end of the year before this year's over. We got to do something in the Bay Area, or people are going to have pull out the torches and pitchforks and start
Right.
writing. So then that's something we got to concentrate on and introduce more songs into the set. So there's all these things that have to be put first. And if people do want new music out as soon as possible, the best way to do that is for us to concentrate on that and to give them the full product when it's done. So next year we've been offered way more festival shows than it's like next year is really going to be all about the big splash festivals, US, Europe, South America, likely Japan and parts of Asia. Like there's, who knows, Australia, but that's going to take up a lot of time if it's not even a normal tour, because each one of those are going to be increments of, weeks. And so as you can see, it starts to pile up. It's a
Right.
very positive thing. And we need to kind of ride the wave of getting that momentum and becoming a real band, playing live a bunch, working on music. So that's why I say the album probably won't be out till the beginning of 25, like first quarter. We probably just passed the release date in uh, this either early March, early April. It'll be 2 years from then because it takes that long.
Right.
It takes that long. It has to be the priority. This has to be. I could tell people a lot, but I've already, hung myself out to dry with the no Russ, no Forbidden, right? But I'm going to tell you realistically, if you want a great album, it's got to be written with care, and there's got to be like a serious amount of effort put into cultivating,
No, I
getting
get that.
better as a
I
band.
guess two things. Like, further step back. First, the Rust thing, I wanted to clear it up because I also am about people, bands just being happy and what they want and having fun. So to me, I was saying you didn't see it. I felt that was coming at you. That no Rust thing. I wanted to put that out there to maybe dissipate it to other people that might have that issue. If you and I are talking about it, they can go, "Oh, that's why I don't have an issue. I like when bands do what they want to do. It's about having fun. It's music." But you saying want
Yeah,
to
yeah.
hear any
Well,
music from me? I just want to put that so other people would be like, "Oh, I get it," and lay off that because there's a lot of things that go on in life. You can't be locked into things. And but me as a fan that's on the East Coast, it's exciting and didn't get to see you when I was younger. I'm looking forward to it. I'm like, oh, if I heard like a soundboard quality or something, I'd rather not hear it on a phone. You know what I mean? There's some kind of like official bootleg off a soundboard. I could hear something live over Europe. I'm saying
soundboard is
as a fan,
soundboard.
as a fan.
I got a secret for you. Soundboards sound worse
I know.
than phones because it's funny because for years when I was a kid and I didn't know anything and I hear the soundboard, I'm like, where's the guitars? Why aren't there any guitars in here? Oh, that's because it's a soundboard and you were turned up so loud in the venue that didn't need to put you through the PA very much. So soundboards always sound like ass. They're always out of balance and whack because the sound man's mixing for the live thing, and unless you have a live mix separate,
Well,
where you're doing
that's
a
yeah.
live mix. And so but we can do that. I mean, but it really shouldn't be the priority, man.
I get it.
Shouldn't
I
be the
understand.
priority.
I'm just a fan that's excited. Can't wait. That's all. It's a good problem, you know?
Yeah,
That's
I
all.
appreciate that too.
Yeah, it's not like a
I'm just here. I'm like the fucking the wet towel that tempers it. Like it has to, putting it over the flame. Like there will be a time, and if you want it great, we got to do it in this order.
right.
Like I feel like a parent.
I get the process. I worked in radio and records for a while, and I did work in recording studios, so I get the process. It's just still a fan and still excited to hear the new singer. And, that's how it goes. As far as this process goes, though, like, how are you going to pick out the songs for this guy? I mean, how are you going to do it? You do like an old set like we used to do, or how are you going to mix it up?
Well, I mean, it's Forbidden Needle's 35th anniversary, and that was the way that Alcatraz was even brought to us. And it should be said that I didn't agree to doing any of this. Even after playing with Norman for the longest time until I got an email from Alcatraz asking specifically if we'd be interested in doing the 35th anniversary of Forbidden Evil, and we would be interested. Excuse me, would be okay if it was with another singer since Russ is retired. And they were taking a stab in the dark. And they even said, and would you be interested in having Chris Contos play drums since you already played with him in the boneless ones? And I was like, oh shit. So it's like, there's one thing to talk about doing this, that, and the other, not have anything to shoot for. But I'm telling you, that made so much sense in that moment.
Yeah.
There were other things happening musically for me that making me realize that I wasn't really completely fulfilled in that moment. And then it all made sense because I knew Norman could do it for months, but I just didn't accept it. I knew he was good enough. I knew he could pull off everything his own way with his own attitude and swagger. I already knew all that, but I was the last guy aboard. Matt wanted to do it with him. Steve wanted to do it with him. Chris Contos wasn't even in the band. He was telling me that I should do it with him. And I mean, I was like, Jesus Christ, like, what else do I need? Oh, this fucking show. Yeah, this show is the thing I fucking need. So it got me, it pushed me off of my ledge into picking a side and realizing I'm not going to live forever. I don't have a chance to always, play these songs and, honor the legacy of the band forever. I mean, I'm getting older. Now's the time.
It's got to be hard. I mean, especially as to see like a lot of rock bands. I mean, the Stones are playing, but the music's a little bit slower than say thrash or really heavy metal. And vocally, it's a little bit different. I mean, good for them. I mean, I can't do I couldn't go on stage and do that. But the challenge for you guys physically, it's got to be
Well,
incredible.
the Stones are in their they're in their 70s. Yeah. I don't feel like thrash guys have aged as much as other people. I don't know what it is. And we're all in uncharted waters. Like this
Oh
is
yeah,
no one's ever played music this crazy, this fast
this
and this
long.
energetic, this long. I'd be have an easier time if I played punk rock. I'd have an easier time if I played death metal. Yeah, there's it's just something about that thrash. And we made our songs. I said again, we made our songs so hard and unorthodox, and that was a lot because I was an unmusically trained guy who could chase shit down, and I had great players next to me that could harmonize and embellish and it. Yeah, it was just we did our brand is just incredibly difficult, and so we have to back that up, and we will, and that's why we got 3 months to do it, and that'll be our first shows, and it'll be great. But I want to answer your question you asked because I kind of skipped over it. The 35th anniversary of the band, it has to be the focal point. So we're going to play all of Forbidden in its entirety. Maybe not in order, but in the set. And
Hmm.
I haven't figured that out yet. And some have twisted into form, and that's about all we'll have time for. So we're not going
That's
to like
fair.
hit off all the, you're not going to see Distortion, Green, or Omega Wave songs this first time in Europe.
That's fair. That's fair. It's exciting. I mean, I definitely think it makes sense because you guys definitely this is one band that needs its Victory Lab because a lot of your riffs were very. I wouldn't have known it then what to call it, but it was very progressive in some of the songwriting without realizing it had a very
Yeah,
progressive style in the music, but you didn't get it at the time. You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, I mean, everybody has their little difficult things, but we just did this Bay Area International thing, and I played everyone else's songs, and they aren't as hard to fucking play.
Really?
It's just like, and I learned them, like I dug in and I do things the right way when I do that. I learn exactly what's played and how to play it. And yeah, our shit's just harder.
So
At least for our Bay Area compadres,
yeah.
they're all amazing guitar players all around, like everyone. And it's not a diss. It's just,
No.
I just made things stupidly difficult. And to the point where like, why did like I said, I'm working on these songs. Like, why did I fucking do that? Like, but that's what people like. That's what it
That's
was. You
why we
got to
like
just
them.
roll with it.
I would want the songs different.
It's
I think
part
so. With your musical training, though, I mean, you started playing
lack
young,
thereof.
lack thereof, and it's really funny because I play guitar horribly, but I started later in life, like 45, but with like YouTube or whatever, and then knowing people and stuff, I can pick up things, and I do it for fun.
Never
But
too
to
late.
realize, yeah, no, but I don't care if I ever do anything with it, but I just enjoy it because there's something very magical about just playing guitar, just yourself. It doesn't matter. Or learning something. I've learned to reappreciate songs from like the structure. As you know, you start learning to read music and stuff. You're like, oh, I never liked that song. And you're like, oh, that did that. Oh, that's an interesting change. That's really smart. how everything phrases together.
Yeah.
Over the years, has your playing changed? Have you like are you all right? You play all right ear? Can you read any music? Like, how's your when you started so young, such complex music?
Well, I did more in my career than most people realize, and the ones that followed me know that I've evolved a lot as a guitar player. When with Forbidden Evil in particular, I'd only been playing for 3.5, 4 years when we made that record. Well, I was not playing for even 5 years yet. So I had very little feeling, and I had everything that was going for me was my crazy energy and being the driving force of that energy. It was myself and Paul Bostaph that just kind of drove that frantic energy for that album. And yeah, then getting Tim Calvert in the band helped me immensely because he was calm. He wasn't a thrash guy. Uh, he had a way of playing that totally complimented me, and then I just got to kind of settle into my own thing and had more feeling and
Yeah,
started figuring out, what slow down the solo. So I realized I kind of picked my lane is like I would play the slower, more melodic solos, but be the super fast picking hand. And like this hand is incredibly fast. This hand is medium fast. I can make it go fast when I need to, but it's not really my forte. I always had another guy to do that in Forbidden. But when Forbidden was over, uh, I went to rock school. I kind of stripped it down to the basics a little bit and
hmm
really figured it out, how to play by myself. I started a band called Man May God with a Rue Luster who joined Machine Head. When he joined Machine Head, I learned how to play for the first time in my life by myself and figured out new techniques, new ways to do new chords that I use to this day that very few people use. It's funny because there were chords I was doing where like I never heard them in recordings, and then over the
yeah,
years, the Mastodon records with the way that Bill writes, I was like, dude, he's using my chord, but he's not even familiar with Forbidden himself. The other guys in the band were way more familiar, but it's just the way our brains work separately, and it's so cool to hear him doing some things, especially the new album. I'm like, I'd hear direct things that I did that I kind of figured out how to do because I needed to play by myself. So it's weird. It's cool. But I mean, I really figured out a lot. Got signed to, American, did it on with Rick Rubin, the Man Made God record. It was straight like rock. It was heavy, but it was rock. And it was like America's, you know, uh, Bad Company or Foreigner but with other influence, Zeppelin and Little Soundgarden. It was a little, but it was ahead of its time. And then after we
what
broke
year was
up,
that?
then
I know you did. I
other
haven't gone back and heard it. I'll have to go back and listen.
we got signed in 2001. The album didn't come out until almost 2000 until 2003.
Oh wow,
Yeah, it was a crazy story, which is I don't even have time to get into that,
that's
but it was an incredible ride at the highest echelon of the way the music industry works. And we just didn't have a singer that understood the process of building things. He wanted it to happen fast, and that's ultimately the demise of the band because he was unsatisfied it didn't happen quick. And I just got annoyed, and I said, I'm done with this. I can't keep telling this guy that you have to work. And we ended up fixing all that later. We got back together for fun and didn't really chase down any demos or
yeah.
didn't want to do anything like that. He just played the songs again, and he grew up considerably. But it was too
It's like a
late.
house, though. When you build when a band is like a house, you got the foundation's got to be there. I mean, Forbidden had a foundation. Now you guys, the house still stands. It's you know,
Right. Well, and therein lies the difference. Forbidden, when we toured, we were there to win the crowd every night.
right.
When Forbidden Evil came out, sure, people had heard Chalice of Blood or whatever they'd heard or saw The Ultimate Revenge, but we had to win it every night. And with Man May God, the three guys in the band, there was Steve Jacobs from Forbidden was in Man
Yeah.
May God, and there's only a four piece. It was one singer, one guitar player, one bass player, one drummer. It was like your classic Zeppelin style four piece. And yeah, our singer just really would get frustrated if people weren't singing the songs. I'm like, bro, they don't know them.
Really?
They don't know them. I'm like, so yeah, but it's not worth really talking about too much. But I've seen how it works. Biggest management, biggest record label, biggest budgets. Uh, put you on tour a year before your album comes out, so give you these opportunities to play everywhere with these bands and get these fans. It just didn't work out.
Oh, I'll have to go back and check it out. That sounds pretty cool. But as a songwriter and a guitar player, so obviously it's really changed you. So it's going to be interesting for you to come back now, though. Like if you're playing, used to being a one guitar player writing songs for a band for that,
Yeah,
and doing all
that's
different types of stuff. Now you're going
well,
to come back and be a different musician now, writing.
uh, it's not. It's in my DNA,
Well,
dude. It doesn't go anywhere. It's like
no, I mean your thought
you
process got to
sure you
add to
have
it.
to.
You know what I mean? Well,
Not
your
really a
thought
thing
process is different.
for.
Is it? No, no, no.
Well, I mean, you got to remember, after, so there, I did this, then I was in a band called Spiral Arms where I was one of two guitar players for a long time, which was a continue with Tim from Systematic, the old singer Systematic. And we kind of joined together as two major label rebound guys.
Mm.
And we did years of that, and that was fun and not as successful as Man Made God was. We just never got off the ground. But I did years of two guitar player stuff after that. Then I did then I started, Forbidden again. And so I was right back in 2008. It
Yeah.
was just
Okay.
getting on the bicycle. So it's from 2008 to when we recorded the album in 2010. You see, it was like a 2-year process to, get the album done and put it out. And then to 2012, I was doing Forbidden and Spiral Arms. And in about 2016, 2017, I started Dress the Dead. And that was a two guitar player thing, but I
Okay.
took on the main portion of things. And
Okay.
now I'm in the Boneless Ones with Chris Contos, which is a skate rock legacy band, and that's only one guitar player, and it's great because I get to shred all over it, and it gives me tons of room. It's super fun. Um, and we're playing Dynamo this year, actually, the week after that Forbidden plays Alcatraz. So Chris and I will already be there. We'll already be in. We had that book like last year.
It works out really well for you. It's going to be busy, I guess. And then maybe I was misunderstanding because, like, I know a lot of artists, and I always think it's great. Like an artist is, they do one thing, but they go off to a different type of music, or they start playing bass. They play the more instruments they learn, it changes their songwriting. Not a different sound, but their thought process when they hear it. They're hearing it differently. Like they hear more like an
Oh, for
orchestra.
sure.
That's
Yeah,
what I mean. I
nobody.
mean, it's like if
Yeah, nobody.
you're writing for Forbidden, and then also you're writing for this great four-piece band. You're like, oh, I'm hearing it differently now. And then I'm going to take all that and put it in my cap and write the next, whether it's another four-piece band or five-piece band, it's going to keep adding to it, is what I meant. Like it's a
No, you're
perspective
you're
thing.
right. Yeah, and that's a good astute point of view you got right there. The thing for me though, and I've always trained myself to do this. I don't get too in my own head, and I kind of pull from the subconscious of whatever I need to do. So I don't. For example, when Forbidden got back together in 2008, I started writing songs after the European tour that we did.
Mm-hmm.
And I came home and Glenn Alvarez was in the band, who's the older guitar player. And I said, dude, I've started writing riffs. I should come over to your house. Let me show you some stuff. And he's like, yeah, come on over. And I remember playing him stuff and him just looking at me with complete puzzlement. Like it's etched in my brain forever. And then he was saying things like, maybe we should be more like X or Y, or he's saying like Meshuggah or Opeth, or I'm like, no, we're going to be like Forbidden. And I should
Yeah.
know because I've been in this band since I was 15 years old. I'm like, can you just shred? And then it just became obvious to me that was the end of that because
Yeah.
because he was trying to chase something down and look for something else. And I'm like, no, it's all right here. It's all right here. It's just follow the bell and we'll get there. And so some guys will try to fit in really really badly or to do whatever they're into now. For me, I'm just like I just go with
Well,
my
that's
gut, man.
following. I'm just
And
saying learning, like learning in a way that songwriting is such a craft and a skill you spend your whole life learning, and it can you
yeah,
learn in a way you
yeah,
don't necessarily
always.
see it. I don't mean chasing it, and that's why like a lot of musicians that instead of like we're going out. If you look at your peers that were going out partying in the '80s, '90s, whatever, and the guys that were sitting in the studio next to the producer, seeing how it worked, learned out and played bass, like guitar, played bass. I'm gonna let me play drums a little bit, and they start just touching everything. And next thing you know, 5 years into it, you're like, I was in a band with that guy. Now that dude's like a producer because he's
Yeah,
because you're learning
I've
that way.
I've always been the guy that's in the studio from the first day to the last day doing the mixes. Uh, but I've surrounded myself with really talented people, and and I've been lucky to be surrounded by really talented people. So I learned from them, and I learned a ton making that Man Made God record because that was Rick Rubin. And even though he wasn't there every day, the process was. And we went up to his house a whole bunch, and I learned a lot from him. Just a few, key strokes, and then later Sean Bevan, who mixed that record, who was incredible, and he's a great friend of mine to this day. Really taught me a lot that
Yeah,
anything I heard in my head could be created.
right.
I would give him a suggestion, he'd just be, oh man, yeah, let's do that. So it was cool to learn this stuff. So I've always, but I'm not like engineer. I'm more of like a co-producer, producer kind of
Right.
engineer. Like Rick Rubin, not an engineer.
Yeah,
He's a
I hear
producer. He
the
has
best about him, and I hear everyone loves him for the most part, but some people are like, I don't know what he did, and another person's like, he was brilliant. Like, there's no in
that's what he does.
between.
No, he is brilliant, but sometimes he misses shit. Like because he's on a. I tell people
He's a
he's the
human.
at a glance guy.
Yeah,
He's a human, but he's at a glance. He hears something and then he has an initial feeling about it, and then he either completely works from that point or he missed the point completely. And he's
okay.
done it with a few bands. With Meme God, he's mostly right, but he was wrong about some things. But I mean, my respect for the dude never waned, and he never had a problem with what I did. It was he starts with bass and drums, and he gets really idiosyncratic
Yep.
with bass and drums. Like they're that's the thing. So the drums change, then the bass changes. Then with the guitar, he's like, that sounds great, man, right on. Then he got into the vocals, you know, but he didn't really attack or dig into my shit because I guess he liked it. But I understand how frustrating it can be for some people. This guy, the man on the mountain, you know, the guy who lives on the hill because he's up in the
Yeah.
Hollywood Hills. They I could see some people crumbling under the pressure, and I could see other people flourishing. And I personally would have loved to work with them more.
It's interesting. I wonder how much of his beliefs, and I guess he comes off as very spiritual and kind of open to things. So, like how he hears things and how it comes out. Yeah, you're either on it or not. It's kind of like, at the glance, it's probably a real good explanation. It's probably the best
Yeah,
from all the
he's
stories I've heard. Like, because it's always like people are like, yeah, I don't get it. But if it works, whatever he's doing, if he's seeing things from a different angle that no one's seeing it at, and he's helping lead that maybe the band can't get out of his own head, then that would be brilliant because it works and it's going to allow the band to be the best. But if he's not seeing
well.
it,
You
it's not going to help anybody.
did you did you see the video with him and Paul McCartney going through all the old songs?
No, not yet.
Watch it. Find it on YouTube.
All
Paul
right.
McCartney and Rick Rubin going digging through, like literally pulling up the tapes and like pulling up the tracks one by one and having a conversation. He can keep up in those conversations. That's Paul McCartney. You
Yeah.
know, um, and I mean Rick. Rick is Rick, man. If you don't get it, that's cool. I kind of got it, and some of the other guys in the band have a different view. So to each their own.
That's
But
good.
I but I
You either
think
be loved or hated. There's no middle ground, right? That means you're doing
yeah,
something.
I thought he was brilliant. Somebody's trying to call me, and that's totally not cool. And I have it turned
Okay.
off. Send a voicemail. Okay.
I'll let this part out anyhow. I know it's went over the little time I thought I sent for you. I didn't know what the time limit
No,
was.
I think people would be interested
Yeah.
in the Rick Rubin stuff. I
Yeah.
don't think you should leave that out. I think I have no problem with it. I think it's part of my history where people
Yeah.
will understand that I've done
No, I
things.
meant cut out that part with the phone part. That little phone part I would cut out. I'd leave this part in. I don't want to.
Fuck it. Uh, but yeah, just getting back to all that, just to,
Yeah.
to put a fine point on the whole thing, it's like I've done things. I've been lucky enough to do things that a lot of my peers haven't done because they've been less uh, obliged to take chances.
Hmm.
I've taken chances my entire career, and it hasn't always worked out, maybe lucratively or but it has definitely worked out, fulfilled me musically, and that's to
Right.
me the most important thing still.
I think it is, and I've said this before. I support any band doing where everything is creative. I support Metallica doing Lulu. I won't listen to it, but I support the desire of a
Yeah,
band wanting to do something differently. I totally support them doing it 100%. I can't listen to Lou Reed on it. I can't
yeah.
listen to it, but I support them doing it. And I think any artist should be able to do that without getting a beat down. You know,
I
it's
am 100% agreement with everything you just said right there.
how can you not be the best that you are? And how can a fan of a band not want that? Not want your artist to try being the best. That's how you end up with Back in Black. You end up with like every Zeppelin album. That's how you end up with like Master Puppets. Like if a band's not expanding and trying, you're gonna get the same album every single time. You know, and
Yeah, yeah. Metallica's is, you can spend years talking about like, better, worse, don't get it. But the fact is that until you walked in their shoes and had the kind of success that they've had and the kind
oh
of
yeah,
pressure that comes with that success, you have no idea, coming back to your roots is truly impossible. So trying to come back to your roots can make people happy or it can make people frustrated, but ultimately they're the biggest band in the world and no one will understand the how that machine even works. The inner workings of it are beyond what most people can comprehend.
oh I agree. I think I have the most respect for Metallica. I love them, and I have certain albums I love better than others. But they've changed, and I've always loved that about them. There's certain times in different parts of my life I've liked other albums better than others. I'm like, nope, don't like that one. But I'm not gonna go online and slag them because I'm like, thank goodness they're doing what they want. I wish everybody did that.
Yeah, I'm cool with it. I'm definitely
You
cool with
know,
it.
I don't have to
I
listen
mean,
to every album,
I don't love it all, but I mean, I don't have to.
right?
Somebody else does. There's millions of other people who will.
But come on, if they did Master Puppets 5 times in a row, you'd be like, oh, this band has never done anything since '80, whatever. You know what I mean? They wouldn't get it that way too, so you're not going to win. So at least be creative as an artist. You know,
Exactly.
I think that's why it's exciting, and it's going to be good with you guys. Going out and getting your due. I don't think Forbidden's
Yeah,
gotten it yet.
yeah, no, well, I mean, we kind of touched on that earlier. It's crazy that people care enough to even uh, build the thing up big enough in their hearts and heads this time around, where it's because it's kind of catching fire, and I see it. I've kind of put a temper on it to the guys in the band. I'm like, got to deliver. If you don't deliver, then it
Mr.
doesn't.
Wet Blanket.
Yeah, because we had a chance last time, but Russ was going through it and it was tough. So I think his lack of nailing it every night because of his alcohol problem chipped away at people's confidence
Right.
in the band. So having a guy like Norman who's like very confident, very within himself, you know, uh, sings it his own way, but yet the way it should be. It's kind of a weird, cool, perfect
And he's not.
scenario. You
He's
know,
played out, but he's never been this level. So is this? It seems to me like when a lot of bands have gotten newer singers in, new blood, like when Skid Row did, or like whatever bands they go, it's great because the guys have gone through this for so long. They're like, I'm experiencing it again. I'm reloving it again through their eyes. Like when you had your kid, you're enjoying things through your kid's eyes. You're getting a different perspective. So having a
yeah,
new
I'm
singer
looking forward to that.
who's got a different perspective on it, he hasn't been beat down the same way, or he hasn't gone through the same history you guys have gone through. He's just loving the songs and representing, and it's new.
Well, I mean, he's got a career too, and there's thousands of people that know about him in the
No, I
Bay
meant like the
Area.
beat down by like the problems you guys had in Forbidden, the struggles with the
No,
alcohol, the
no,
touring. I'm like,
he's had his own problems, I'm sure,
but it's
and
different.
his own struggles, and but yeah, the Forbidden thing is like
It's
it's a good
fresh,
thing that he hasn't been through all that.
right?
It's probably for the best.
The energy will be different though too, so it'll be exciting, you know, to pull through.
He's already great on. I'm telling you, dude, the guy delivers like he's in the arena every time he's playing anywhere. It's like he's been built for this, and this is the moment where he finally gets to stick the landing.
That's also that's really good too. One of the things that when I would wrap it up, I want to say I think to me one of my favorite things I think of bands have like three stages in their career. Like you first get out, it doesn't matter how long they've been together. You start off and like you're struggling, but you're like you really work hard. You work hard, and then you kind of achieve success, and then you hit the middle ground, and that's where the band goes up. You break down, you break up, you stay together. You kind of go back and forth. Third level is when you finally you find a spot where you're comfortable, and the band is just the band, and you can just be you, and it's like a victory lap. And you can be in a victory lap for 30 years. Like Aerosmith finally were doing their victory lap. I mean, they got to retire, but for that, they finally at the point where they could just be Aerosmith. They could do what they wanted, where they wanted to put out albums or not. I think this is, you guys are going to be able to do that third level, that victory lap, that finally everyone knows who you guys are. Everything you do now is just fun. You don't have to prove yourselves, you know?
Well, we'll still try to prove ourselves, you know. I mean, that's human nature too. But yes, I think you're right in a
I
certain
don't mean
way. I
you're
just
gonna
don't think
suck.
I don't think it's healthy to look at what I'm saying is I agree, but I also don't think it's healthy to look at it like this is the gravy train or the easy part because
Oh no no
I
no
do
no.
want to be better. I do want to be better this time around. So I think I'm very guarded about like lowering my guard. You know,
All
like
right.
I'm keeping my dukes up because I got to be ready for this shit. So as does everybody. So it's my job to keep them all on their toes. But I
I
think
was
that they
assuming you
all,
were going to keep your standard. Is what I'm
yeah,
saying. That you guys, people know who you are. They know the level that you're going to put out. You don't have to prove yourself.
yeah, it's weird, man. It's weird because we definitely that cult status has grown over the years, and I see it. They're more excited this time around than the first time we came back in 2008. I can already by the amount of reaction and everything, and this is without Russ, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then people are also, we haven't really talked much about Chris Contos, but people are very excited Chris is playing drums with us. They are very excited because of his work with on Burn My Eyes, the Machine Head record, you know, their most like whatever you want to call it,
Cult
iconic
like.
record. Yeah, he's awfully good. And you know, it's a great lineup. There's really no weaknesses. I mean, it's really, really strong.
I'm looking forward to it. I'll be looking for the bootleg, the YouTube videos, the concert, to get my fill to hold me over. I'll be looking forward to
Yeah, do
talking
that.
again. You
It,
know,
3 months you'll have plenty of that to look at, and also do yourself a favor and dig up the Man-Made God records on iTunes. It's Man-Made,
yeah,
one word, God. There's another band that came out later called Man-Made God, who I didn't bother suing because I'm not really caring, you
yeah.
know. But yeah, it's on American. It's Rick Rubin's label.
Okay.
It's in the background. Actually, it's that picture over there if you could see it. But yeah, it's like got a lizard's eye or an alien eye or whatever you want to say with the reflection of the forest. It's a cool record. People get emotional about that record with me.
Really?
I've actually had people sit there and cry with to me about how much that record means to them. There's a lot of you'll see.
All right.
I mean,
I'm
it's just it's
intrigued.
deep.
I'm intrigued.
It's
Hopefully
deep.
next year or two we'll catch up when we talk about the new album, and I'll go back and we'll talk about this too. You know, about my
Well, right on. Well,
hearing stuff.
no, I appreciate the time and stuff, and I appreciate that people
Cool.
give a shit. So
Thanks,
there
man.
you go.
Take care, everybody. Everybody, check them out when you can. Take care, man.
Later, guys.